Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everybody. It's RJ coming to you live in effect again with another episode of the Walker Roundtable. We have Papa J, Book, or Bobby, and then we have JP Justin with us tonight. The topic of tonight is going to be parenting styles, old school whoopings versus new school parenting, and the idealism around that. Is it is it good? Is it bad? Where are the kids? Are we cut from a better crop? Are the kids cut from a better crop in this day and age? Are we going in the right direction or are we backtracking? So, with that being said, who wants to start it off with their opinion? You know what? Let's start off with Daddy. Daddy, you're the father. You didn't
Oh
really
yes.
you didn't really get you gave me probably one pop to the belt. Mama used to whoop me a lot, but um, I mean, you understand this topic probably better than us. So let's start
Well,
with
let me tell you, I really didn't have to lay hands on you at all. It was all in my voice, and it was all in the fear that you might get a butt whooping. But laying hands on children, I think is it's not wrong, but I think it depends on the individual and the children in the home. And the way we raised you guys was, we raised you guys to listen. And I think I used that to steer you in the right direction. Discipline was not an issue as far as, you need to be home at certain hours of the night or whatever. You're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. You guys really didn't have that issue. But when it came down to correcting behavior, it was the fear in my voice that made you go in the direction that I needed you to go in. Your mother, on the other hand, she would take a belt out and a pot out in a hot minute and try to get after you because she didn't listen. I think she didn't listen to what the issue was with a lot of you guys. She just lit into you and suffer the consequences later. A lot of that, I think, type of discipline doesn't work today because kids are more opinionated, kids are bolder, kids have an understanding of what their rights are. You lay hands on some children, they'll call the police on you. But for you guys, it was the fear of getting that butt whooping, so to speak, that put you in the right direction. I never had to lay hands on you, maybe a pop here and there on the butt, but I never had to lay hands on you. And I think when you guys start to talk, and each one of you will attest that how many times did I ever whoop you?
I think I got
You
one.
know,
I think I kicked a hole in the wall when Bobby beat me up one time. Bobby was in this real anchor period when the growth spurt was real different.
No,
So
you
he,
about to start
so,
making some stuff up
so he
here.
used
Okay.
to bully me.
Yeah,
Justin
he's,
knows
he's he
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 used
he
to
does that.
he used to
well,
bully me and he used to just beat me up. So Bobby beat me up
Learning
one
these
time and I
stories
got
for the first
mad.
time.
He like did something and I couldn't do
Mm.
nothing because he was just way he was like 24 inches big taller than me, you know.
Did he just call
Only
me the bully?
what you say?
Did he
I
just call
heard
me
it
the
that way,
bully?
but I
I
said,
said
hey,
I
I
was the
said
most
I said
quietest
Bobby.
kid.
I said Bobby used to bully me.
He wasn't the bully either.
He used to beat me up. Anyway,
oh, thank you, Justin.
all right. He used to
Keep
beat me
going.
up. But yeah,
Keep
I
making
guess you
your
can't be
story up. Go
sensitive
ahead.
if it wasn't you getting beat up all the time, man. But
Yeah.
anyway, once I kicked the wall in one time, and I think Daddy got real mad. He hit me with the belt. Boom. Once. It's like, dang, I don't want no more of them.
yeah, I want to repair those walls all the time.
I
Mhm.
had a little lean. The lean is just was like if I get a couple more of them shots, boy, I don't know.
Let me,
And then maybe
let
like
me
one other time when I was a kid, yeah, I didn't want Daddy to because I didn't like it when Mama with me, but I knew if Daddy got going, it wouldn't have been
let
good.
me tell you a
Yeah.
story. Let me tell you a story about your Uncle Kenny, right? He's the same as I am. He does not waste his time running after kids, trying to whoop them when they were grown. And he has three sons just like I did, right? And I can remember being over his house one day. I may have told you guys this story. I was over his house one day and he wanted me to, no, he didn't want me to babysit, but I used to babysit his sons. But at this particular time I was over there, they were watching TV. It was a school night. And all of them are in their, night clothes, ready to go to bed and all this stuff. But they were like eating junk in front of the TV, getting into the show that they were getting into, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, Kenny looked at his watch and he said, go to bed. These kids were like robots. Immediately, the ears jumped up. Not a word, not a word. Go to bed. They all went into the bedrooms, got in bed, went to bed. I said, gee, I ain't gonna be whooping these kids. They know it was the fear in his voice that got those kids up out of that living room and into them beds. But anyway, that's a little story for you.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Justin? You only got like one, not even a whooping. See, I got a million whoopings from mama. I got
mm,
popped 2 times by daddy with the belt. And I think you got a total of what, like 3 whoopings your entire life? Why don't you tell us from
you
your
got
perspective being the baby? What do you
well, my perspective is you have selective amnesia because my memory is when me and you used to get into our little arguments, mama would take the belt to both of us. That's what I remember. But
I was always getting in
um
trouble for you. What the both of y'all. I was always
I
getting
ain't got everybody in trouble. All
yeah.
our
yeah.
whoopings are because of Ryan. Let's just make
I
that
You feel me?
mean
clear from the beginning.
Ryan
Only
acted like
reason I ever got
he wasn't a little terror, but
I'm not saying I just would get in trouble because of y'all though. I used to do my stuff, and then when y'all do y'all stuff to me, it's like, well, obviously it's Ryan's fault. So I'm
yeah,
like, yeah.
okay.
And
all right.
Bobby would, go in the room and, yup. It's just-
Yo,
Ryan must have started it.
ain't
Anyway,
nobody
Ryan,
believe this. This ain't even you
come
making it up on
on.
the spot. Okay. All right, go ahead,
Uh,
Justin.
no, but like I agree and disagree with you, Daddy. Like when you said like kids nowadays don't, or you said that style of parenting doesn't uh wouldn't work in today's day and age. Um I feel like actually that's like, because as a teacher, I'm seeing these kids and how they behave because of the lack of parenting and the lack of discipline. Um, because honestly, I can attest. I mean, because honestly, I feel like, um, we ain't gotta name no names, but we see people in our own family who never got any whoopings from
Or
the
any
people who are
discipline.
looking for any discipline, and we know how they turned out. Um, but I can see myself, I can see my 2 older brothers. We got whoopings, we learned discipline, and we turned out for the better. And honestly, Diddy, like, and I appreciate you never having to take that belt to us, because you being as strong as you are, you probably would have knocked us in the next week. And I'm glad that you left Mama to do that. But I felt like it was necessary, ultimately, looking back on it as a grown man, that it was necessary. Because I feel like kids nowadays are a lot more disrespectful. I feel like kids nowadays are a lot more, um, like you said, a lot more bold, to challenge authority and to challenge adults because they have no fear. I think Diddy just might have got kicked out the chat.
Well, keep going, he come back.
But I feel like they feel more emboldened to challenge authority, and that translates, into other areas of life. Like if you don't get that discipline from your parents, you're not going to be able to respect authority when it comes to, police. You won't be able to respect authority when it comes to, your boss on your job. I feel like that translates into different areas when you need to learn discipline. You need to learn cause and effect at home. You do this one thing, you get this consequence. And I feel like a lot of kids are missing that nowadays. And so, you know, I don't know. you and Ryan's parenting styles, y'all both got daughters, so I don't imagine, that y'all are whooping your daughters. But do you think ultimately, the new style of parenting, do you think whoopings are necessary?
Yeah, I mean, I have a different take. See, I have wondered this before, and when Daddy comes back, he can talk to it because he's representing both mama and dad, mama and himself.
Mm,
But I wonder if those whoopings, spankings, when it happened at the time, did it correct the behavior temporarily, or is that really the discipline that caused us to grow up and eventually become the people that we are, as far as respect for authority, things like that.
So you're
Right.
saying that you're suggesting that even without it, we would have grew up to be those people anyway.
I mean, I feel like there are other ways that they influenced us to be the way that we are,
Mm,
separate from that. Right. I always looked at those whoopings as being afraid of them. Right.
mm,
I mean, and all of us, I think, like he said, like Daddy said, he was, oh, I didn't have to do much. He, instilled that fear with the
mm,
way I said whatever I said, and then that was about enough from him, right?
mm,
And Mama did most of the discipline in the other type of way. I feel like we would have developed probably in a similar type of way without that.
mm,
Um, I hope so, right? Because as far as like my parenting technique, and I think it when it comes to discipline, and you're right, Justin, that Ryan and I we each have daughters. I think it also has something, it's different in that way too, right? But I've never touched my daughter when it came to discipline, right? It's more of let me um, try my best to talk to her and let her know what the consequences are. And she will know right away if I'm frustrated or irritated with a certain type of thing that she's doing, that I want her to do something different. It's not about me yelling. It's not about me touching her. It's about she can see it in maybe in the way that I'm not looking mean or anything, but just she can sense that something is not right and that she did something wrong that needs to be corrected. And I'll talk to her about it. And I'll try to be as calm as I can because I'm not trying to scare her into compliance. I'm not trying to make her afraid of me, right? I want us to have a conversation about it so that she knows what she did wrong. And hopefully, right, that will allow her to not um, do it again, right? Um, so I think that it's a little bit different to Daddy's earlier point about kids nowadays probably knowing more about their own rights and who to call if those rights are stepped on and the line is crossed. I think that's a good thing, but also, it could be uh, just like anything else. It could be taken in the wrong way. It could be, um, people can use it in a way that's not appropriate, right? But I think that if folks learn how to communicate with their kids, I think that's something that can only benefit the kid, the parent, and then eventually who that kid is interacting with out in the world. I don't want to put my kid out there in the world scared of authority. I don't want to put her out in the world scared of somebody else, right? I definitely don't want her to be in a position where she's scared of me, because I know how if I say the smallest little thing like I'm disappointed in her or if I'm, something like that, just that alone, I know will upset her, right? Because so I don't want to get it to that point. So I think the approach is different. Not saying that is better or what, the older approach was worse. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's different. And this is how I chose to do it. And I do see that so far it's working great. I mean, she's like how Daddy described, our cousins, and when it's time to go to bed, I gotta say, oh, it's time to go to bed, and she's up and okay, let's get ready to go to bed. Right? There isn't a whole lot, there isn't a whole lot of, oh, I want 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes. I get that, right? But it's not in something where I feel like she is not listening and not respecting my authority and my place as her parent. So in my case, I feel like it's working in that different approach.
So, would you say that like in place of like the discipline and as far as like physical discipline, like whoopings, like I would imagine, I mean, because I imagine, that whole respect for authority, respecting your elders, respecting other people, not having to scare, her into doing that, but like she sees it through you and basically follows like your example. And then that kind of takes the place of, since I'm disciplined, she will be disciplined because she's following my example. Do you think that is a part of it?
I think that has a lot to do with it, right? I tried my best. I mean, I'm not perfect by any stretch, but I try my best, at least around her, to make sure that I show discipline and I show routine, right, and things like that, right, that I think, allows it to for her to do it in an easier way. And that conversation has started from, yeah, I remember, like, it's been me and her, um, since she was 2 years old. And so we've been having those conversations, real conversations, for a long time. And that communication channel has been there for a long time. And so when she knows when she's not doing something right, and daddy gonna say something about it. But I also, in the same way that I can, I discipline her with talking to her, I also praise her a lot as well, right? So she gets it on both sides where, if she's not doing something, she will hear about it so we can correct it and make sure that that mistake doesn't happen again. But she's always hearing how proud I am of her. She's always hearing how much I love her. Um, and I think keeping that balance is important, right? So I think that also helps her to continue to build and maintain a lot of trust and respect for me.
Mhm.
You know what? You have to. Can you guys hear me okay?
You're
Yeah.
Okay. I think you have to not condone poor behavior. And you guys know what I'm talking about. When you have a child and you condone poor behavior, that manifests itself in someone who's going to be a poor person on a job, in life, when those behaviors are condoned by the parents. You know what I'm saying? And if you do that, I mean, you're going to lose control of that child. And I think if you reward them for the positive behavior, reward them for, the academics, reward them for even helping around the house, that goes a long way. And compliment them on things that sometimes people take for granted. You have to compliment them on things that are not the big things, um, no matter what it is. But I think condoning poor behavior will have a child that's going to grow into an uncontrolled adult, you know. And it's not so much putting your hands on them or anything like that. I think when you listen to a child, understand where a child is coming from, participate in the things that they like to participate in, it may be a movie or whatever. But when you condone the poor behavior, it results in a child is going to be out of control. Period. It's going
We
to
shape,
happen.
we shaping we're shaping future adults, people that are gonna be on the job, folks that are gonna be, folks that you wouldn't. have to interact with out in the world, and you want to put somebody out there that's going to, bring a positive, right?
Oh yeah.
A positive impact versus somebody that nobody wants to be around, or somebody that folks try to avoid, right? All that
Oh
stuff starts in the home.
yeah. And you want that person to be productive, and you want that person to have a positive outlook on life for themselves, for their kids, if they have kids, for their spouse, if they get married, whatever it may be. Um, but if you condone the poor behavior, believe me, that child will be out of control. And I see Justin. Justin knows this more probably so than a lot of folk, that his students, if that behavior starts at home, it transfers itself right into the classroom, and the next thing you know, the parent is expecting the teacher to discipline the child. You know what I mean? It's a vicious cycle. It gets out of control that way.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I want to hear from Ryan about like his view since he's a parent as well. But I also want to ask you, Daddy, when you were a kid, did your parents ever whoop you at all?
Oh yeah. And I think they, for us, it was more or less, I think, out of frustration, because I look at every household that's it's different. For me, I was one of those children that wanted to be independent. I wanted to do things that other kids, their parents probably wouldn't let them do. I wanted to stay outside. I wanted to, just run around and be a rambunctious child. And it got me into trouble a lot of times with my parents. So yeah, my mother, it was the same way with you guys and with me. My mother was the disciplinarian. My father was too laid back. He put hands on me one time. One time. I remember it like it was yesterday. But my mother, I think, probably whooped me more out of frustration because she worked a third shift job and I kept her up at night, you know, trying to play with, inside the house or whatever it may be. It's time for you to shut up and sit down. I got to go to sleep and I got to work. And I never understood that. So I think it was out of frustration. But she was a loving mother. She was just, a warm mother that, you guys didn't really get to know your grandmother, but she was one that was very mild mannered, just very a humble woman that was loving. She had 5 kids. She just raised us all in a house full of love, and we never had a bunch of anything. The woman could cook from scratch, and you had a Christmas dinner, and I don't know where it came from. You know what I mean? So yeah, I was one to get probably 99% of the ass whoopings that came around in that house. They came my way.
Oh, so I was you, huh?
Oh, Ryan, yes.
Yeah.
I
So,
always tell Ryan that I was 100 times worse than
um,
he ever would be.
and that's hard to, I mean, that's hard to believe because, I know I was a little Dennis the Menace. See, I kept my grades in check, but I was doing a whole lot. My opinion on the thing is this, I think out of the three of us, I probably got the most whoopings. And I joke, but it's true. I think in a lot of ways, when we would get in trouble, I would get just it'd be something with Justin or Bobby, and then I get blamed for it, and they get the benefit of the doubt because I was always into something, which is rational, I guess, per se, when you're looking at it from a probability ratio perspective. But we'll let that be. We'll leave that in the past.
Let me go on mute.
But that being said, like the way I look at it as a kid, like it wasn't a situation like for me it was correction, but I was scared of our mother, right? I was scared of her. I respected her, but it put me in a place of more fear, right? And then I don't think that translated to me actually having an affinity for her or liking her per se, right? So like most of my childhood, I was just more afraid of my mother. I felt like I had to walk on eggshells. And I felt like daddy was the one that, if I did something wrong, I would want him to discipline me because daddy used to he used to do things that would impact me more. When mama would whoop me, I think I would probably rebel a little bit more, go into a hole. I would feel like depressed as a kid sometimes. But when daddy would do it, it'll be like, you can watch TV. I'm gonna just take the Sega Genesis out of here. So I could still watch what would be a little show we would watch at night, Justin? Frasier. We would watch like Frasier, but we couldn't play Sonic, right? So we're up. So we had like this freedom. And then when the PlayStation came out, you can go outside and play. You just can't play. You take the whole PlayStation out and then leave the games. So I'm looking at Sci-Fi Filter and the rest of the action games that we used to love to play, and it had an impact. I would be like, okay, I need to correct myself because he's taking away my leisure. Um, but then with Mama, it took us a while. It took me into adulthood to actually, I feel like, get on a level where we had a synchrony and we understood each other. And I think that was part of it. Like I just had this resistance towards her, and I had a lot of walls up, and I never really felt close to our mother until I became like 21, right? Which is God, oddly a long time ago now, even though I still look at, I still look 21. It's a long time
Here
ago.
we go.
Back in the past, back when I was a young Thundercat. But listen, that made me feel it made me feel further away from her. I think that we could have had a closer relationship when I was a child and in my teenage years. Because I mean, even when I went to college, I didn't Mama would pray we had, Mama was there, but I didn't really it was like the later years in college I didn't really get to get close with her. So from my perspective, it had a detrimental impact. Whoopings had a detrimental impact on my relationship with my mother, and I think on parents. But I think that it provided instant gratification with respect to correction, right? So it'll make you snap out of something, but then you would still be mad. See, it didn't solve the emotional issue. It would make me angry with you, but then I wouldn't do that thing. Right. So that solved another, and then there's no therapy for that. It wasn't, let's talk about why I gave you a whooping. Right. So when I look at my child, and she's in between two households, right? And her mother does things, she operates on a different planet than I do, right? Two totally different people. We don't see the world the same way at all. Have not we don't have anything in common. So I want her to have a balance between, coming from Jupiter and then she's coming to Earth over here, and she operates a certain sort of way, and I operate. And I think the one thing that I always felt like like between that, if she's going to be growing up in a broken home, is that um she doesn't resent her father. She's not scared of her father. She's comfortable with me, right? Because it was a struggle all of these years actually being a father and going through this cliche system that we have, right? It was exhausting. It was expensive just to, you know, retain your fatherhood, custody levels, etc., and just the stuff that you should be entitled to, but you have to fight for. So I think that being said, and I mean it breaks my heart. I think it's someone who's as overprotective and as loving as I am. It breaks my heart when I have to discipline her. I mean, in the form of correction, like if I tell her something and she cries, oh, it's the worst feeling in the world. I will often call daddy and tell daddy, like, I had to tell Soraya and she bust out into tears. And I'm like, am I a bad father? He's like, no, you have to discipline her and take her stuffed animal away, right? And I'm questioning myself. So I couldn't imagine just taking a belt to her as routine, right? Putting my hand, I just, what I think that the way it is I think that it's way more impactful to deal with a child on an emotional level and on a communication level. If I can use my words to communicate with you, and if I can use my heart to emphasize the fact that this is coming from a place of love, I always, whenever I discipline her, and I tell her, I'm like, look, this is what happened. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take away this toy. I'm going to take away this tablet or something, right? You can't watch this movie or we can't go to this activity that I planned, right? I'll do that. I'll take away activities or I'll take away her items of leisure. Um, and then if she cries, I end it with a hug, and then I do a reset and I pivot to do something that will get her out of that funk. Because I want her to, when she grows up, I want to be a place of rest and refuge for her, and I want to continue to have a relationship. And I don't want her to look at her father as someone that she needs to stay away from. She grows up and she has kids and a family. She doesn't want to be around me. I want her to always have a strong, I want us to have a strong, lasting love because it's unconditional. And I think that that's the way, right? It's easier to just communicate, and it's a lot more effective. You know, it has this it's a lot more effective with the healing mechanism about it. But that being said, um I think we're gonna probably end on that note. And I thank everybody for taking the time to touch bases with us. You know, if you want to like and subscribe. Bobby, did you have anything you want to add on closing? We got just a few seconds left.
Last thing I would say is that disciplining has an impact on both the parent and the child. All right. So, okay. So I had just a few questions for each person. So maybe we'll start with Daddy. Um, Daddy, do you think that did it ever, and I mean, obviously speak for Mama too, but did it ever hurt you emotionally to spank us? Did y'all
Did
ever
it?
have a conversation like that after the fact and
Oh,
have to deal with it, just the two of y'all?
oh yeah. I mean, it affected me, but I seldomly did it. And I think that my methods of disciplining you guys, um, it sort of shielded me from that. You know,
Mhm.
I didn't want to put hands on you guys. And I think my methods were effective. But, you know, if I had to do something, if I had to really discipline you on some stuff, oh, yeah, it affected me. I mean, I thought about it for a long time, you know, but it's one of those things where, you know, and me and Ryan have these conversations more than you and I do, Bobby. But when he disciplines Soraya, he doesn't put his hands on her. It's more of a psychological type of a discipline, and it makes him feel bad because he sees a reaction. You know,
Mhm.
those things I think are, you know, you're going to have that emotional type of connection with your child, and you're going to probably be empathetic to how that child is feeling because you've been through some of that stuff before. But I think it's a necessary thing to do. And I think it's some of those things when I talk to Ryan, you just have to do because you don't want your child to be out of control and probably make you feel bad, but you'll get over it. You know, you'll
Mhm.
get over it. So, yeah, and it was the same for me. I got over it because I had to raise you guys.
Mhm.
And you guys, you know, took a path that, you know, I needed you to take at that point in time. And I think it paid off. I mean, look at you guys now. You know, and I can honestly say that when I see others, even some of your family members, when I see them as being these undisciplined children growing up, they turn out to be the worst adults, you know, that, you know, and they're trying to do things in life that, you know, they're not going to be even half successful as you guys were. They're just not because they didn't have that discipline in the home. They just didn't, you know? So,
Yeah.
Yeah. But Bobby, can
Yeah.
I interject real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask you, Ryan, and Diddy a question real quick. Because I feel like this does play a factor when it comes to how we were disciplined versus how y'all are parented, right? Um, Mama, our mother and father had sons, right? Um, so first I'm gonna ask Daddy, Daddy, do you think um you and Mama's discipline tactics would have been different if you had three daughters as opposed to three sons? And Bobby and Ryan, do you think maybe you would be more willing to use the belt if you had a son rather than a daughter?
Would the discipline techniques be different if I had daughters? Yes,
Mhm.
they would. And you can see that in the way that my granddaughters have a relationship with me. It's
Mhm.
different than how they have a relationship with your mother.
Mhm.
I think I would have been totally a wet noodle when it came to the girls. And I think your mother would have been more of the disciplinarian, more of the hard hand, more of the guiding light. Me, it's when they see me, it's more of a fun time. It's more of a different time. And they very seldom challenge me with anything. They're young now, but when they get older, I think that will continue. I see them as, I'm their Papa J, and they can't disappoint me. You know what I mean? They do not want to disappoint me because they've only seen one side of me. They haven't seen the disciplinarian Papa J where, you sit down, you don't do. They haven't seen that. They've seen that in your mother though, but they haven't seen that in me. I think when they get older, they're going to have a different relationship with me, one that's going to be softer, I think. And if I had girls, it'd be the same way. I'm sorry, but you guys had to get the rough end of it. But if I had girls, it'd be a totally different type of a discipline. And it would probably be taking things away from them, denying them privileges, saying no at the time that they wanted me to say yes, challenging me with their mother, putting me in the middle. And you see in a lot of cases where, go ask your mama, with a girl, go ask your mama, you
Mhm.
know. I think with me, it probably been, what did your mother say? And it would probably be whatever she said if I thought it was the correct thing to do. My take on it.
Yeah.
How would my approach be if I had a son? Now I mean, that's a hard question to answer. I would hope that
Because
my,
you would have to consider the fact that, as a son, he may challenge his father and he would physically try to challenge you at some point, probably. So do you think you would be um, more inclined to possibly put hands on your son if you had a son to put hands on him?
I don't think I would be more inclined to do that. I think that my approach, the way that I talk, probably would be in stronger terms, right?
Mm.
I think it would be a bit more strict and serious, right? In the way that I spoke to him, almost like so. I mean, in my kid, she's a reflection of me. I see that, but physically, I would see a reflection of myself, right? And I think that the approach then would be different because I'm thinking about how what I would need or what I needed when I was younger and probably trying to translate that to him. Um, I don't think that all in all, the discipline that we got from both our parents, um, I think that it was necessary. Whatever the approach was, it was necessary at the time to correct the behavior. Overall, though, I think that we became the men that we are, because of a lot of other things too. And and so discipline definitely, if I had a son, would be there, and I would be consistent with it. I don't think that I would necessarily have a different physical approach. Um, I might use a little bit more fear tactic if he tried to challenge me, but I would try to stay away from touching him because he still is my son and my kid, even if, different gender. So I think that just the way that I am, I would try to stay away from that as much as I could, and stay consistent with the approach that I had with Layla.
It's funny you said none of you guys ever challenged me.
Mm-mm.
Can't do it now because you guys are bigger than me now. So
Yeah, that's the thing. I think about when my brothers, when we would fight and we would tussle, but I never would want to get like give them lay a shot on them. You know what I mean? That was purposeful. Um, because I love my brothers and we would get rough. And, I mean, see, if it was somebody on the street, I would throw hands with them. But I never try to mark my brothers up. I just wrestle with them and kind of grab them, roll around on the ground, all the stuff. But I never, just imagine the feeling of hitting your father. Oh, that'd just be the worst feeling in the world. You know what I mean? Or just hurting your brother. I think more than anything, we angry and all that testosterone being kids. But from my perspective, if I had a boy, it'd be the exact same, right? I think the difference. So like it is a difference, but I wouldn't be inclined because I didn't like it. And be honest with you, I think that I'm kind of an edgy. I'm a manly man. I'm kind of edgy. I'm kind of tough. Like I have that side, and it kind of comes through. I'm refined, but I'm still, a person can get a weirdo can get it at any time, right? So I understand kind of being a tougher guy, not even using that as a shield, but it's kind of who I am. Like I'm ready for it if you want to go to it. But as a kid, I still needed love. I still needed compassion and empathy. I needed all those things, but I didn't need a lot of talking, right? I'm a real black and white. I'm not a real emotional person, with the exception of the how I'm connected to my daughter, right? And I think all of us are probably kind of made that way, right? So I mean, I think that understanding that I would want him to be very balanced, but I think I would have to use less words. I would never put my hands on him because I don't think that that's needed. I would just use the same tactics that work with Daddy. Like I would take stuff away. Okay, you like basketball? You like going here? Let me take some of these activities away. Let me take the video game. Give me the iPad. I'll do all of those things and then I'll use my words. It probably, I probably won't have to hug them and coddle them as much as a girl. But I still will, right? Still my son. And I think the worst thing, it would still absolutely break my heart. The exact same is if I put a belt to him and I made him cry. Because, I mean, a little bitty Ryan Jr. versus a little girl who looks exactly like me crying because I frown, right? I remember I frowned at my daughter. She did something like threw something to hit me in the head. And I turned, I'm like, I did that. But she's a little baby now, so it's expect. But it's just a natural reaction. She started crying. I'm sorry, Daddy. It'd be the same exact feeling if I had a son. So I think the emotional strategy might be a little bit different. Because a male is different than a female in that respect. But the rest of it would be the same. It's not required or needed at all.
well, I tell you one thing, when they start dating, I want to see what those guys are going to do when they come to the door for the first date.
Oh,
Be
well,
some
hey, I
discipline
got I got one for you. Y'all seen Den of Thieves, right? The first one
Yeah,
was
that's in,
so
in the
Or
garage.
Bad Boys too.
Well,
Bad
yeah,
Boys too.
well, yeah,
Bad Boys in the
yeah,
garage.
Bad Boys too. But I think it'd be more. It'll probably be a combination of that, and I'll probably open up the door, and he gonna realize like, oh, her dad ain't nobody to be. I need to show her the utmost respect, treat her like a queen, or I'm gonna have a problem.
Hey, y'all need to come
Oh,
to my house. The minute that Layla start talking about that, we gonna, have an introduction to that little boy, right?
yeah.
The first,
All four of us.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Just say,
Trust
hey
me.
man, I
Oh,
know where you
man.
live.
Oh,
Trust
man.
me. They not gonna want to see. They not gonna want to see old Uncle Rye. He the wild.
Nah.
He the wild card. Hey, her uncle in there, the one with the glasses on. Be careful. he might, he might hurt you. For real. For real.
No,
But
but
yeah.
I think
What are you
we'll
gonna say?
be okay. We'll be okay. I'm
Yeah.
just, yeah, I'm not
That's a
really.
subject for another day,
I know
huh?
that's a whole nother thing I could go on.
Oh, that's a
One
whole
last
nother
question I
episode.
had around this was, and I think this is Justin, you could take this one if you want.
Mhm.
Y'all, I think everybody is seen at some point out in a public setting, at a restaurant somewhere, or at the grocery store or something like that. Little kid is just going wild, right? And then the parent will, we'll just say spank. They'll spank the kid. And sometimes that spanking will turn into a whooping right there in the middle of everybody, right? And some people look in a certain type of way, other people trying to mind their own business. Other folks, I mean, I've seen people kind of cheering it on too.
Now I say something like,
I,
hey, I'll pay
I
your
was
bill to
that.
get
I
that
was
boy.
that
hey,
kid. I experienced that at
Come
Sam's
on,
Club when I
man,
was
give
a
me the
kid.
check
Yeah,
for that kid.
right.
that's got to be the worst kind of whooping, like a public whooping in a grocery store.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, okay, so everybody has seen. I remember
I've experienced it.
we were at like I think it was one of our baseball games or basketball games or something like that. And I remember a lady doing, whooping her kid right in the stands. Anyway,
Yeah, sit right back down and watch the game.
yes. And
That's traumatizing.
while we was playing, okay, so my question, Justin, is, what are your thoughts? Like, if you see somebody out there in public, maybe right next to you, what are your immediate thoughts of what's going on, and just take it from there.
If I saw a parent like whooping a kid in public,
Right there, yeah, in public. Do you
oh,
have any immediate reaction to it? Do you
my
feel like
react,
they should have
my
just taken
immediate,
this kid somewhere else and done that? What do you think?
my immediate reaction is mind my business. I mean, because honestly, if you try to interject with somebody who's bold enough and crazy enough to whoop their child in public and they don't know who is watching, you don't know what kind of reaction they may have if you try to step in. So if I see somebody who is whooping a child in public, I'm like, yo, that's your child. I can't tell you how to parent. Um, you just better be hoping that child services or some police officer or somebody ain't walking around here. But I'm not gonna step in and be Superman and try to save the child from the belt. Because one, I don't know what the child did, and two, you know, the fury of that parent might turn towards me and that could escalate to something that don't need to be to a point where it don't need to be escalated to. But I do want to get to, because when you said like kids getting whooped in grocery stores, it automatically also made me think of like soft parents where a kid would be in a store. um
Yeah.
Mommy, I want this, and no, no, Brandon, you can't have that. And no, I want it now. And then like those kids who don't get whooped end up being, you know, the type of kid that's trying to run their parents. And to me, like, cause if I had a kid, right? Like I don't have any kids, but if I had a kid, I honestly probably would take the same methodology that our parents took. Like I wouldn't want to put my hands on my kid, but I would want my wife or the woman that I'm with to dish out the whoopings. Because one, I'm physically, I wouldn't want to hurt my kid because I'm gonna be stronger than my wife. But there needs to be some type of discipline there to where you understand you did something wrong. Here's a consequence. Now, um, hopefully that would be the last resort, the physical discipline. Step one would be, give you, some type of conversation, some type of lecture. Step two, I'm taking something away. Step three, you still ain't listening. Then we got to consider, a belt or some other type of punishment. Because I would really hate it to see, you know, parents, who don't give their children whoopings turn into future criminals who don't have any respect for any authority whatsoever. Because I can see like when I come into my classroom, I'll be like, you know what, you the type of kid that never got whooped because you a little too slick at the mouth and it's one of those things where now I have to be uh kind of like a co-parent in order to make sure that you ain't, messing up too bad. And so like, because I've had to step to some of my kids to a point where it's like, yo, um, you know, you better chill or else something bad could happen. Like so like I'm not a I'm your teacher, but I'm also a man at the same time. So you need to really like chill like for real before something can get escalated. Um and a part of me feels like I wouldn't have to do that to a kid who understood their place in terms of I need to respect my elders. And I feel like that in a way comes from the whooping. Now I don't feel like it's always necessary, like I said, but I do feel like it's very easy to see where a kid could end up if they don't get it. Or any type of discipline at all. Like, because if you only are giving, kids what they want, if you constantly are, giving kids positive, reinforcement, even when they don't deserve it, um, then they end up being that lazy, entitled, person who doesn't have any respect for anyone, but themselves. And so that to me is, that's a detriment to society because ultimately, if you don't, we're going to have a society, and I feel like we're kind of already in that era where we see more and more young kids who don't have any respect for their parents. I feel like, the parents nowadays are like, it's kind of like kids having kids and they don't know how to properly discipline their kids because they were never properly disciplined, themselves. And I feel like it just becomes a, continuous cycle. And, until we have like a family units that kind of operated like ours did, I don't think it's going to get any better, until we have, some semblance of discipline um from the parents.
Yeah. You know what? Let me jump in and say something real quick. I've seen instances where kids act up in public places and things like that. I'm gonna just tell you a couple stories. When I was in high school of all places, I can remember mothers coming up to the high school, literally whooping the kids out of class. I've seen that happen. I've seen things like I can remember being on the playground and the child comes up and he's on his bicycle. I remember this. He was on his bicycle, a nice bicycle, but his father was playing basketball with us. He said something slick to his father. You know what his father did? Turned the bicycle on its side and stumped out every spoke that was on the tires and told the boy to go home. That was one of the most unusual public demonstrations of embarrassment I've ever seen a father do to his child. But I can remember old folks being in places in public and they always would say something like this. wait till I get you home. Those words would have a child stand up at attention and have to think about what's going to happen when I get home.
And Diddy, hold on. Like before you continue, like I want to address that really quick because I do feel like um the discipline that you offer a child should be contained within the home.
Mm-hmm.
I am a big believer in if you publicly humiliate a child, that's going to cause them serious trauma at some point.
Gonna get it
Um,
worse.
I think they will turn out worse.
Yeah.
Like if you, I feel like you should always discipline the child, but you should have it confined within the home. But if you put it um, on public display, that is a memory that I don't think
Oh yeah.
is going to be erased from that child, and they will resent that parent forever. I feel
Uh,
like because
you,
they will have a complex, in my opinion, from
yeah.
that public humiliation and
Yeah.
embarrassment.
Yeah. Humiliation is something, but like I said, the older folks, they used to always do things. The older folks never wanted to be embarrassed in public. They never wanted to be embarrassed in public, whether it be in church, grocery store, no matter with friends or whatever. They always would come across and say, wait till I get you home. And that child would straighten up. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Straighten up, sit down, be quiet, knowing that when they got it home, something's gonna happen, you know. But yeah, the public humiliation type thing, I've seen that happen. And I don't, I would never do that. I would never do that. It was something that, with you guys, I never had that problem. But, kids get out of control in public places all the time. And I see, parents, they lose their tempers and they go at it like it's, WWE, whatever it may be. Next thing you know, the kid is getting disciplined and whooped through the restaurant. You know,
Mhm.
that's something I don't condone. But I think I'm on the side of the older folks. I'll get you home and and discipline you at home.
Well, and then back in the day, what weren't the teachers allowed to do so
Battle.
whatever
Oh
and
yes,
and everything else too?
oh yes. I
I wish
avoided
we
a
had
lot of
that now.
those.
No, now. Yeah, times are different now.
Oh
Ryan,
yeah,
you gonna
these
say something?
teachers, man. Hey, there was a guy named Mr. Orr at what was it? One of the schools, elementary schools we went to. Me and your mama, good friend of your mother's, by the way. And this guy would have 3 or 4 rulers tied together with rubber bands, and he had, I guess, if you did something in his classroom that deserved licks, that task that you did that deserved licks, he had a number to give you. Oh, 2 licks, get up to the front. And I actually seen him do it.
Hmm.
Today he would be in jail.
Yeah. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Ah,
I'll say this, so I can shine a light on my thoughts. I think that, I have a different way of looking at all things with children. Especially like if you go through family court system, right? In that 9 times out of 10, like, well, I've seen 10 times out of 10, every time I've seen a child get a public whooping, it's a mother. And the way that this thing works, mothers have so much bandwidth to, like, in every regard with their children, especially legally. Like, even if it's perceived that they're not doing the right thing, if they're not, like, putting the child in imminent danger, or to the point where a child needs an ambulance or something, just pulling out a belt and whooping a kid, and it's totally inappropriate. It's pretty much nothing that you can do, right? Like, I think a lot of it, like, and I think it's my place, like you said, to mind your business. Like, mind your business. If it gets out of control, go somewhere, go into a controlled setting, and maybe call the authorities. If you feel the child is in danger. That being said, though, I think that, it's been times where I've had to discipline my daughter in public and she's gotten loud with me. But I think there's a level of emotional control that you need to have. It took me some time to be able to like center myself all the way because, you know, I mean, it was me and her since she was 7 months, right? So, I wasn't with her mother for a number of years after she was born. She was 7 months old, and I was just figuring out how to be a father. I didn't know how to really. I was praying, I was studying, I was researching, I'm doing all these things to try to figure out how to be a father. And I think the biggest thing that, I think God revealed to me in the wisdom that He gave me was, having a centered spirit and being balanced and being calm. Because I try not to bring my voice above where it's at, but it's a way that I say things. Even when she's over there, I'm like, hey, we have to go now. And I mean now. And we were at Trader Joe's and she had a hissy fit about something and got loud, Daddy, no, 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 start stomping her feet. And this is how I did it. I touched her on her shoulder and I looked at her. Kind of like, well, you remember when Bane had told that the one guy, he said, "Do you feel like you're in charge?" The guy was like, it was some henchman who was going, he said, "Do you feel like you're in charge?" And the guy, like, dang, like, and Bane all big, and he just responded in such a calm way. It's kind of like that, right? It's sort of like that dynamic where she's throwing this hissy fit, and it can be embarrassing if you don't have a level of emotional control, but you also have to realize that kids are going to be kids, but you have to have a control response and not feel so humiliated that you have to do something in the moment, like explode and give a whooping or explode and yell I just put my hand on her shoulder. I said, "You need to be quiet." Huh? You need to be quiet right now.
You know what they call that, right?
What's that?
Give them a moment of pause.
Oh, exactly. And so it shifted the energy. Even like when the cashier was looking at shit, I think she was expecting me to be like, you, you know what I mean? I think that she was expecting that. And she kind of was like, oh, hmm, this father here has it together, right? And I said, and this is what I said. I said, sweetie, you need to be quiet. You need to use your inside voice. And I don't like how you're behaving. You need to straighten up right now, or you're going to be in big trouble. You understand me? Yeah, daddy. Okay. I don't want to hear a word. Relax. Daddy loves you. You see how I kind of buttoned that up? It's a couple of different levels and iterations to it. I touched her. I told her to relax, told her to be quiet. Um, and then kind of calmed it down, shifted and buttoned it up, and then I ended with a I love you. All within 30 seconds. And I'm in control because I'm always in control of the situation. She's not in control of anything. I'm in control, right? So I'm in control of the entire situation and I'm in control of how I respond, right? So then I have her, and even if she just continue to wail and flail and whatever, it's not incumbent upon me to match her energy, right? Because if I were to match her energy and get stressed out, it's going to run my blood pressure up, right? I'm already stressed out from having to deal with the world, the problems that I already have as a man, a black man, as a father, right? Dealing with the world, the everyday responsibility and pressure being in this great press. And it's not going to help anything. And ultimately, I love my child and she can make mistakes. And the thing one thing that I've noticed with that sort of tactic and that strategy, a calm response, but a firm response. It works not only with a child, but it works with people. That's how I deal with people. I mean, whether it's at work or, oh, hey, what do you mean? Right? I can respond to you, and you can know that it's power. I got power, but I don't have to raise my voice. It's all in my body. It's all in my body language. I'm in control, and I'm calm, and that's even probably more intimidating because you're expecting an instant. But then if somebody looks at you and they're calm and they're relaxed, they're not flustered, that keys in. That has her locked way more in than, any other time where I'm like, oh gosh, I kind of get flustered myself in my response. So I think just calmness and stillness when you respond if you're in those situations, and if you see somebody else doing something to their kid, um, to not it's not your business. You just pray for them. You know, as long as the kid ain't in danger. But that's all I got to say on that topic. Bobby, did you have anything else on that?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
we're good. Appreciate the conversation, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and
All right.
make sure that you drop us a like, subscribe, share it out if you like the conversation. It helps us out, and we're gonna make many more of these to come. Okay.
All
All right.
right.
We'll check you guys out.
All right, y'all have a good evening and thanks for joining us tonight.
All right. We'll see you later.
All right, bye-bye.